You trusted them. You let them into your inner circle. You were vulnerable with them, and they seemed to understand you in ways nobody else did. But then, something shifted. You noticed people looking at you differently. Friends who once texted you constantly stopped reaching out. Colleagues who were warm and friendly became cold and distant. Your family members started making comments that felt sharp, loaded with judgment. And the worst part? You had no idea what you'd done wrong. You replayed conversations in your head, searching for the moment you'd messed up, wondering if you'd hurt someone without realizing it. You felt confused, isolated, and increasingly certain that something was terribly wrong with you. But here's what you didn't see happening in the background, in private conversations you weren't part of, in carefully crafted messages sent to people you care about. Someone was systematically rewriting the narrative of who you are. And they were doing it so skillfully that by the time you realized what was happening, it felt like the entire world had already made up their mind about you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, because here you'll discover powerful psychological truths that can change your life. The insights you're about to hear could be the difference between staying trapped in confusion and finally understanding exactly what happened to you. What we're going to explore today is one of the most insidious and psychologically damaging tactics that narcissists use. It's not just manipulation, it's character assassination dressed up as concern. It's the slow, deliberate poisoning of your reputation, your relationships, and your sense of self, orchestrated by someone who appears kind and reasonable to the outside world. The narcissist doesn't just want to control you. They want to control how everyone else sees you. They want to ensure that even when they're not in the room, they still have power over the way you're perceived, the way you're treated, and ultimately the way you see yourself. The reason this tactic is so effective is because it operates in the shadows. There's no single moment you can point to and say, "This is when they destroyed my reputation." There's no dramatic confrontation, no obvious betrayal that people can see and understand. Instead, it's 1,000 small comments, a pattern of implications, a steady drip of doubt that gets injected into the minds of people around you. And because it happens gradually, because it's wrapped in concern and delivered with a worried tone of voice, most people don't even realize they're being manipulated. They simply begin to form a different picture of who you are based on information they're receiving from someone they trust. If you've ever felt like people turned against you without knowing why, or if you've experienced this gut-wrenching sensation that everyone suddenly sees you as a villain despite knowing in your heart that you're not, make sure you subscribe to this channel. What you're about to learn could help you make sense of experiences that have felt deeply confusing and painful. Let me take you into a scene that might feel achingly familiar. Imagine you're in a relationship with someone who appears to be genuinely interested in you, genuinely invested in your well-being. They listen to your problems. They offer advice. They seem to understand your struggles in a way that makes you feel less alone. But beneath this surface, they're observing you, cataloging your insecurities, noting your vulnerabilities, and most importantly, storing away every conflict, every mistake, and every moment of weakness. They're building a file on you, though you don't know it yet. Now, let's say you and this person have a conflict. Maybe you stood up for yourself in a way you've never done before. Maybe you said no to something they wanted. Maybe you simply weren't as available as they wanted you to be. In a healthy relationship, this would be a moment for direct communication. You talk about the conflict, understand each other's perspectives, and work toward resolution. But with a narcissist, something entirely different happens. Instead of addressing the issue with you directly, they go quiet. They withdraw emotionally. But here's the crucial part. They don't retreat into their own hurt. Instead, they begin a campaign. They reach out to mutual friends, to family members, to colleagues. And in these conversations, they don't attack you directly. That would be too obvious, too easy to defend against. Instead, they plant seeds of doubt. They might say something like, "I'm really worried about them lately. They've been acting so differently. I don't even recognize them anymore." Notice the concern in their voice. Notice how this isn't a complaint. It's an expression of worry about your well-being. A friend who hears this thinks, "Oh no, maybe something is wrong with them. Maybe I should reach out and check on them." But they won't. Instead, they'll be more careful around you, more watchful. They'll interpret your normal behavior through the lens of concern. If you're quiet, they'll think you're depressed. If you're energetic, they'll think you're manic. If you're focused on your own life, they'll think you're selfish and withdrawn. The narcissist continues. They might share a story with another person, a story about something that happened between you two, but the story is subtly twisted. Context is removed. Their actions are minimized or reframed. Your reactions are exaggerated or misrepresented. They might say, "I was just trying to help, and they absolutely exploded at me. It was really hurtful." What they don't mention is that their help was intrusive, controlling, or dismissive. What they don't mention is that you were upset about something specific they did, not about receiving help. But the person hearing this doesn't know these details. They only know what the narcissist told them, and they told it so convincingly, with such apparent pain and confusion, that it seems true. Meanwhile, in public, the narcissist is perfect. They're charming, they're considerate, they're the person everyone wants to be around. But in these private moments, when it's just them and others, they're painting a picture of you as someone difficult, unstable, perhaps even dangerous. They might say things like, "I'm starting to worry about their mental health. I think they might be dealing with something serious," or "I've noticed they can be really manipulative," or "I hate to say this, but they've been acting abusively toward me." And here's where it gets psychologically devastating. When someone hears that another person is being manipulative or abusive, they instinctively believe the person making the accusation. It's a bias built into human psychology. We assume that if someone is making a serious allegation, they must have good reason. We trust the person who sounds sad and concerned more than we trust the person they're talking about. So one by one, the people around you begin to shift their perception of who you are. Not because of anything you've done, but because of a narrative that's being carefully constructed in conversations you'll never hear. If you want to understand these tactics and protect yourself from them, subscribe to the channel right now. What comes next is essential information that could fundamentally change how you navigate your relationships. The genius of this strategy is that it's almost impossible to defend against because you don't know it's happening. By the time you realize people are treating you differently, the damage is already done. The narrative has already taken root. And if you try to defend yourself, if you try to tell people that the things being said about you aren't true, you look defensive, angry, or even unstable. The narcissist has already preemptively explained away any protest you might make by saying, "See, they're getting defensive. This is exactly what I was talking about. This is how they manipulate people when they feel threatened." But the pain goes even deeper than just losing friendships or being misunderstood. Because this tactic is so effective, because the narcissist is so skilled at convincing others, you start to believe it too. You internalize the narrative that's being told about you. You begin to wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you are difficult. Maybe you are manipulative. Maybe you are unstable. You start to doubt your own perception of reality. You replay interactions with them, searching for evidence that you're as bad as people are saying you are. And the narcissist watches this happen with deep satisfaction because they've succeeded in what they truly wanted all along. They've made you an enemy to yourself. The isolation that follows is profound. As people pull away, as your reputation is questioned, as doubt creeps into your mind about your own mental health and character, you feel increasingly alone. You can't talk to the people who have turned away from you because you don't even know what you're supposed to have done wrong. You can't confront the narcissist because they'll deny everything and make it seem like you're the problem. You can't post about it on social media because that looks like you're being dramatic or victimizing yourself. So you suffer in silence, and that silence feels like confirmation that something is genuinely wrong with you. Some people in this situation become withdrawn and depressed. Others become hypervigilant, constantly monitoring what they say and do around people, terrified that they'll give others more ammunition to turn against them. Still others become angry and defensive, which only reinforces the narrative the narcissist created. No matter which way you respond, it seems to confirm the story that's been told about you. This is the trap. This is the psychological prison that the narcissist has built, not with bars and locks, but with words and lies and implications. The biological impact of this is real too. When you're being systematically socially isolated and your reputation is being destroyed, your nervous system goes into a state of chronic stress. You're in survival mode. Your cortisol levels stay elevated. You might develop anxiety, insomnia, or physical health problems. You might find yourself unable to focus at work because your mind is consumed with trying to understand what happened. Relationships that once felt safe now feel threatening. You become hyper-aware of body language, tone of voice, subtle shifts in how people interact with you, and because your nervous system is in threat detection mode, you might interpret neutral interactions as rejection or judgment, which then causes you to withdraw or react in ways that inadvertently push people further away. But I want to pause here and tell you something crucial. This is not your fault. If this is happening to you, if you're experiencing this confusion and isolation and self-doubt, it's not because you're broken or defective or fundamentally difficult to be around. It's happening to you because you encountered someone with a particular psychological profile, someone who is skilled at deception, who lacks empathy, and who is willing to sacrifice your well-being for their own sense of power and control. Here's what's important to understand about why narcissists do this. It's not random. It's not a mistake. It's a calculated strategy with a clear purpose. A narcissist's sense of self is extremely fragile. Their entire identity is built on being superior, being right, being loved, being admired. When you do something that challenges this, when you disagree with them, when you set a boundary, when you refuse to give them the attention or admiration they believe they deserve, you threaten their internal world. You become a problem that needs to be solved. Now, most people solve problems through direct communication. A narcissist can't do this because direct communication would require them to be vulnerable, to acknowledge that they were wrong or that they made someone feel bad. It would require them to take responsibility, and a narcissist cannot do these things. So instead, they externalize the problem. They make it about you. They make it about your character flaws, your mental illness, your manipulative tendencies. And they do this in a way that's designed to get other people on their side. Because if other people agree that you're the problem, then the narcissist never has to look at themselves. There's also a component of control here. By destroying your reputation and isolating you from your support system, the narcissist is actually ensuring that you become more dependent on them. Or if they've already discarded you, they're ensuring that even after the relationship has ended, they still have power over you. They still get to define who you are in the eyes of other people. They still get to see you suffering. And for a narcissist, this is a form of victory. But here's where the story shifts. And this is the crucial turning point where you need to hold on to something important. The fact that a narcissist is spending so much energy trying to control how others perceive you is actually evidence of something very significant. It means they've lost control over you directly. Think about that for a moment. If they could still manipulate you, if they could still make you doubt yourself through their own words and actions, why would they need to go to other people? Why would they need to build a narrative around you? The answer is that somewhere along the way, you did something that threatened their control. Maybe you saw through one of their lies. Maybe you stood up for yourself. Maybe you started to realize that the way they treated you wasn't okay. Maybe you started to withdraw your attention and admiration, which is like oxygen to a narcissist. And because they could no longer control you directly, they had to get creative. They had to involve other people. They had to try to control you indirectly by controlling your reputation and your relationships. This is a sign of their weakness, not your weakness. I know that might be hard to believe right now, especially if you're in the middle of experiencing this. When you're surrounded by people who seem to see you negatively, when your reputation feels destroyed, it doesn't feel like the narcissist is weak. It feels like you're the weak one. But the opposite is true. They're deploying this tactic because they've run out of direct methods to control you. The clarity that comes from understanding this pattern is liberating. It shifts the entire framework of what's happening. Instead of, what did I do wrong that made everyone turn against me? The question becomes, why did someone feel the need to manipulate everyone's perception of me? And that's a completely different question with a completely different answer. The answer isn't that you did something wrong. The answer is that someone else has a personality disorder that compels them to destroy people who won't be controlled. As you begin to see this pattern for what it is, something inside you starts to shift. You start to reclaim your reality. You start to trust your own perceptions again. You remember that you know who you are, regardless of what narrative someone else created about you. You remember the times when you were kind, when you were thoughtful, when you showed up for people. Those moments are real. They still happened. A false narrative can't erase them. And slowly you realize something else. You realize that the people who matter most, the people who truly know you, those people are the ones who either never believed the lies or who eventually came to see through them. And the people who did believe the lies and turned against you, well, they've shown you who they are. They've shown you that they believe rumors more than they believe in the relationships they have with you. That's information worth having. That's clarity you can use to make decisions about who deserves your energy and your trust going forward. But here's what's also true. This experience, as painful as it is giving you something. It's giving you the ability to recognize this pattern in the future. It's teaching you about human psychology, about manipulation, about the fragility of reputation, and the power of narrative. It's hardening you in the ways you need to be hardened. It's making you more aware, more cautious, more discerning about who you let into your inner circle. You're learning that there are people in the world who will hurt you, not because you did something to deserve it, but because of who they are. And that's not a pleasant thing to learn, but it's essential information. It's the kind of information that can protect you going forward. It's the kind of information that can help you build healthier relationships with people who operate with integrity and honesty. The road forward isn't about convincing everyone that the lies about you aren't true. It's not about winning back your reputation in the eyes of people who turned against you. The road forward is about building a strong sense of self that's not dependent on external validation. It's about surrounding yourself with people who know you and trust you. It's about creating a life that's so full and so meaningful that the opinions of people who were manipulated against you matter less and less. This doesn't mean you won't feel residual hurt. This doesn't mean the experience won't mark you. Of course it will. You've been betrayed, you've been slandered, you've been isolated. These are real traumas and they deserve to be acknowledged and processed. But understanding what happened, understanding that it was a deliberate manipulation rather than a reflection of your worth, that understanding is the first step toward healing. The narcissist's attempt to control how others see you is actually a final statement about their need for power and their fear of your independence. The moment they can't control you directly, they try to control the environment around you. They try to make sure that no one will believe you, that no one will support you, that you'll be so isolated and confused that you'll come crawling back to them, desperate for someone to validate you. But you don't have to do that. You can choose a different path. You can choose to be honest with the people who matter about what happened. You can choose to seek out people who value truth and integrity. You can choose to invest in your own healing, your own growth, your own sense of self-worth that comes from within rather than from how you're perceived. You can choose to set boundaries with people who've shown themselves to be easily manipulated or who believe rumors without knowing your side of the story. These are all acts of reclamation. These are all ways of taking back your power. And if you want clarity, self-respect, and emotional freedom in your life, subscribe now. Subscribe, because these are the kinds of psychological truths that can reshape how you understand your relationships and your own behavior. Subscribe because understanding manipulation is the best defense against being manipulated. Subscribe because you deserve to know who you really are, not who someone else is trying to convince the world you are. And please, share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Share it with someone who's been experiencing this confusion and isolation. Give them the gift of understanding. Give them the clarity that comes from knowing that this is a pattern, that it's a tactic, that it says nothing about their worth and everything about the character of the person deploying it. The truth will set you free, but first you have to see it. And that's what you're doing right now. You're seeing the truth of what happened to you. You're understanding the strategy. You're taking back your narrative. That's where healing begins.